Control Board. On page 8, Senate Bill 117 by Senator Stewart and Coleman Madison relating to the Sunset Law, Alabama Electronic Security Board of Licensure. On page 8, Senate Bill 118 by Senator Stewart relating to the Sunset Law, Alabama Private Investigation Board. On page 16, Senate Bill 120 by Senator Kelly relating to the Sunset Law, Alabama Board of Funeral Services. On page 16, Senate Bill 121 by Senator Kelly relating to the Sunset Law, to the Alabama Real Estate Commission. On page 9, Senate Bill 130 by Senator Barfoot relating to the Sunset Law, Alabama Board of Court Reporting. On page 10, Senate Bill 131 by Senator Barfoot relating to the Alabama Behavior Analyst Licensing Board. On page 18, Senate Bill 136 by Senator Gudger relating to the State 911 Board. On page 18, Senate Bill 137 by Senator Gudger relating to the Alabama Board of Massage Therapy. On page 11, Senate Bill 144 by Senator Coleman Madison relating to the Alabama Board of Examiners in Psychology. On page 12, Senate Bill 145 by Senator Coleman Madison relating to the Alabama Board of Examiners in Counseling.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that the Senate adopt the report from the Committee on Roads using short roll call.
All right.
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator Spitherman.
I'd speak to the special order calendar.
You're recognized.
Thank you. How much time do you get?
10, 20, 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
20.
Okay. All right. This is, we're going to get a chance, I think, today to kind of see where the agencies are that we're taking under consideration for Sunset. We're going to see, what the Sunset Committee has decided that what actions need to take place. And it looked like these bills started with us, because I see the Senate bills, and and what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a background on these agencies for the people that may not know them, and then after I do that, then if these process comes up, then we'll have some dialogue. If the sponsor chooses not to come up or not to engage in the dialogue, then I would be glad to have the dialogue with any other member in our chamber regarding the findings and the recommendations that are being provided regarding the Sunset, or whether to keep these agencies going, or better yet, keep them in existence. I'm looking over this, and even in this, I appreciate whoever I guess assigned these Sunset bills to take in consideration that each person should have an opportunity, who so desire, to be able to sponsor or be the lead sponsor in these bills, would have that opportunity. I see there's a broad spectrum of sponsors. I see the senator from Selma. I see the senator from Jefferson. They are deeply involved in sponsoring some of these bills. So I think that we're gonna have a real good day today. Yesterday we were looking at some situations where we needed to get out of here by a certain time. I think the pro temp had, not him, but I think his constituents had something that was taking place yesterday. I think I had people who drove all the way down from Birmingham that needed to be engaged with about issues of their concern. and several other, I think the people who were involved with Marion Institute, I think they had meetings scheduled around 5:30 to be able to address their concerns. So I think that we took all of that into consideration yesterday. I'm involved, yeah. We took that under consideration yesterday. However, it's unfortunate, but today we had the people in confirmation with the Alabama Port Authority. Thank you very much. Alabama Port Authority. And it looked like we're gonna have the people. I mean, and I think they seem like they had some good candidates to be confirmed. I thought so on the surface, but I see here that this evening about 5 o'clock, they had planned on having an affair, I think, to meet and acknowledge the legislature. I think the Alabama Department of Organizing History was looking to do something similar. I think the people from the Alabama Restaurant and Hospitality Association around 6:30 were looking to have an affair. And I think the Alliance of Alabama Healthcare Consumers was also around 7 looking to have an affair. Well, let me say this to you. We have 1, 2, 3, it's special order I'm talking about, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The way I see it, we'll probably get started on these, give or take a little time, about 4. So we possibly will have an opportunity to at least do 8 by midnight. I think it's time for us to, buckle in. I did get some concerns from a couple of people talking about tomorrow and about their need to do a few things. And I personally understand that. But I hadn't seen any reason why we can't stay to midnight. We need to put a few of these in to let folks know that we're serious about working. We don't want them to think that we're getting out a little too early and we're shortchanging them on getting in here and grinding it out. So I'm feeling pretty good. Got my little tennis shoes on so I can be comfortable standing up here. Got me a little water. I had me a piece of lemon pie, get a little sugar in me. So I got this water. I was just reminded to take a look at the calendar and ask the question, what do you see? And as I look at this calendar, I see that the Rules Chair had the opportunity and he took advantage of it and providing this calendar. And we have a complete 1/3 to 2/3, which we should. And I want to thank him for putting together such a good calendar. And that's why I said that I'm just going to talk an hour, because it's a good calendar on each one of them. I'm not gonna go past the hour on each one of them. So don't get alarmed that we're gonna be all night on one bill. No, we are not. But we are gonna be here all night on 8 bills. And then that leave us 4 left over. And I assume because we're on Sunset that we'll have to pick that 4 up sometime tomorrow. And then they could add some more on here that they think they want to get done right away. I want you to know on top of that, last night, you all know I usually go up and down the highway, going back and forth up to Jefferson County. But last night I didn't go. I stayed. Got plenty of rest. Went to a real good breakfast about 7:30 this morning. For lunch, I had me some collards, little chicken, and my pie. So I am feeling good. I'm feeling brand new. And so I think you all are ready for us to settle in and do some talking. You know, we've done some because of circumstances, but now we're doing something because we want to be educated about each one of these bills, the impact, what the bill would do, what the bill means to us, and what these agencies mean to, the agencies that we are looking at from a Sunset standpoint. You know, I might have said this earlier, I had the opportunity to serve on the Sunset Committee 2 different terms. And people don't understand it's some intense work, because so many times it's like any board, you have factions, and one faction want to do it this way, one faction want to do it that way. And many times we have to serve as the referee in those kind of situations so that we can make sure that we do what Webster defines politics. Webster says politics is the art of compromise. And so we have to forge out a compromise in order to get it done. And so I think that you'll probably find as we go through these that the committee made an effort to try to forge itself to try to do what was equitable. A lot of people don't think things necessarily fair, but equitable to both sides so that we can keep that agency rolling and keeping it going. How much time left on this? Okay. But time sure does fly. Like I just started talking and they told me I had 20 minutes. Now they tell me, hey, but 5 left, woo. But one thing about time, watch this hand. This is second hand. See how it just moving? That way that second hand just moving. It just moves. Now, I'm gonna show you the relationship to me and the second hand. I'm talking like the second hand. I stop for a minute. The hand ain't gonna stop. It just keep moving. Keep moving. That's how I get thrown off with time, trying to figure out how the time moves so fast. This is gonna be fun though, because at some point, we'll be able to do our moment in Black history, and we have, I don't know if they're here. They're here? That's y'all resolution? Tuscaloosa? That's y'all right there? Okay. Good deal. They're here. We're giving y'all a treat on the moments in Black history. The people we're gonna talk about today, they are in the gallery. Yeah, when we get to that point, they're up in the gallery. And not yet. Not yet. We're going to do it, though, because we got to vote on this, I think. Got to vote on this. Mr. Secretary, when you said we can do that, I know you up there giving us some directives. But they are the subject of the moment of Black history, and then I'll get that to you. Tomorrow we can do that. Okay. Tomorrow I want everybody to hear this. I got a big treat for y'all tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be requesting that when we get to the point in the morning that we can recess for us to do the moment of Black history, do the resolution, and be able to bring onto the floor. Now, it's going to be a treat. If you went to Alabama, it's going to be a treat. If you went to the University of Alabama, this is going to be a treat. If you didn't, it's still going to be a treat, but it's going to be a real treat. Today going to be a treat if you went to Alabama. When I tell you about our moment of Black history, today you're going to be, yeah, this your lady too. This your lady. Ain't they right up there? Ain't that them? Well, this is them too. Look at them. This is them. I'm going to do them today. Okay, and my husband.
Y'all ready to adopt a special order calendar?
What's that, Mr. President?
I'll say, you ready to adopt the special order calendar?
I guess so. There's only a couple more minutes left. I can give up the minutes.
So what you got? You got 2 minutes and 20 seconds. But it's
I don't
up
mind.
to you.
I don't
ready?
mind. Yeah, because I got enough to say grace on over here anyway this evening.
All right. So I think the Senator Wagner's motion adopt the special order calendar using the previous roll.
He did.
Yeah, you good with that?
I'm okay with
All right.
that.
Any objection? All right. Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Twenty-three ayes, 0 nays. The special order calendar is adopted. All right. Senator Smithland, recognized for a point of personal privilege.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I want y'all to listen at this because we got guests. That's the only reason y'all see me sit is our guest is in the gallery. So I want everybody to know that. Our moment for Black history today is Emma Henderson. Hey, Miss Henderson here? Your folks, the folks, stand up. That is her people. Let's give them a big round of applause. Okay, and we have something else that we're gonna present to you all when we finish from the mic, and of course we'll give it to you out there. Okay, we'll hand it to you. Ms. Emma Henderson, you can sit down if you like and stand back up, whatever y'all like to do. Ms. Emma Henderson was a pioneer of education in Tuscaloosa and the state of Alabama. Born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1925, she moved from Birmingham to Tuscaloosa in 1947 to teach in the Tuscaloosa City Schools. In addition to teaching high school, she taught adults who wanted to obtain their high school diploma, but who were too old for traditional school. 7 years later, Henderson opened Tuscaloosa's daycare center in McKenzie Court. Later, the daycare was moved to Stillman College and was renamed Stillman Daycare Center and Kindergarten, and was the first licensed daycare pre-kindergarten program in Tuscaloosa. It was the second oldest in the state of Alabama. While operating her daycare, the University of Alabama started a Head Start training program, but she was told they could not pay her to help with the program. Mrs. Henderson agreed to work free of charge to help set up the program. And on February 28, 1966, she was offered a part-time teaching job with the School of Home Economics and the Department of Child Development as the first African American to be paid to teach a class at the University of Alabama. However, she continued operating her daycare center for more than 50 years. She had as many as 103 students and 30 faculty members at the center's peak in 1970. Henderson was said to take a break in the mornings to ride through the low-income housing projects to talk to parents of children who she saw out playing to qualify them for the program. In 50 years the program was open, Henderson taught about 5,000 children. Many, like U.S. Magistrate Judge John England III, are well known throughout the state. First were nothing new to Mrs. Henderson. She also was the first black president of the Alabama Association of Young Children, which caused her to receive death threats. In addition to participating in educational associations throughout her life, the Johnson C. Smith graduate marched in civil rights movement and led voter registration drives during the 1960s and 70s. She was preceded in death by her husband, Fletcher Henderson, and children Reginald Henderson and Yasmin Henderson. She is survived by 3 sons, Ronald, is Ronald up there? Okay, Roderick, okay, and Reagan, okay, Reagan Henderson. At this time, Mr. President, at this time, I'm going to read a resolution. I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And then I know we have to get unanimous consent to move on it if we can.
Can't come off the calendar.
We can't come off the calendar. Okay, at the proper time for motions and resolutions.
Yeah, motions and
We
resolutions.
will come at that time. But as a moment of black history, can I read it?
You can read whatever you
Without
want in your
presenting.
time. You can read what you want in your time. That's not a
Okay,
problem.
okay.
I come in.
All right. The resolution that we intend to offer at the proper time would sound as such. That's appropriate, okay, to do that? Okay. All right. Okay.
You got person proves.
Why you at the table?
Okay, no, she just told me. I was
She
gonna
had
get it for you.
Yo, you so nice.
Right.
Come on in. Come on.
Mr. President, point of person privilege,
Yeah, you're recognized.
and I'll use Senator Smith.
Okay, thank you. Is it okay? Okay. Okay, thank you. It reads, and of course, by our procedures, we have to wait till we get to that point to offer it so we can then make it official. And resolutions are a part of the permanent record of the Department of Archives and History. So from this point on, once they approve it, then you will be able to punch in that information on that website and she will come up for anybody in the world that gets on the internet that like to know about her forever and ever. So it's a commending Emma Henderson on her outstanding leadership, service, and contributions to the state of Alabama. It reads of such, whereas at the height of the civil rights movement of the late 1960s, people across the country marched for equality and freedom. Among the freedoms they marched for was the right to vote for African American citizens who had been long denied such access through poll taxes, literacy tests, and sheer intimidation. None of these tactics deterred Emma Henderson, one of the foot soldiers who helped to transport people to their voting place. And whereas born in Birmingham, Alabama in 1925, she moved from Birmingham to Tuscaloosa in 1947 to teach in the Tuscaloosa schools. In addition to teaching high school, she taught adults who wanted to obtain their high school diploma but were too old for traditional school. And whereas 7 years later, Ms. Henderson opened the Tuscaloosa Daycare Center in McKenzie Court. Later, the daycare was moved to Stillman College and renamed the Stillman Daycare Center and Kindergarten. It was the first licensed daycare and pre-kindergarten program in Tuscaloosa, and the second oldest in the state. The center remained open for over 50 years, and through it, Henderson taught over 5,000 children, many like United States Magistrate Judge John England III, who later became a Supreme Court justice, are well known throughout the state of Alabama. Whereas Emma Henderson became involved in the University of Alabama Head Start program and assisted thousands of children around Tuscaloosa. She became the director of the Tuscaloosa Summer Head Start program and also chaired several committees for the National Association for Young Children, now known as the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Furthermore, she served as the Tuscaloosa City Schools Parent Teacher Association president. Whereas in 1977, she received the award for Distinguished Woman of Outstanding Achievement in the Community by the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And whereas Emma Henderson was a woman of first with many successes, her legacy of striving for excellence and quality and leading her community in the field of education was not without barriers. She received death threats after being voted as the first black president of the Alabama Association for Young Children. And whereas Emma Henderson died September 20, 2014, at the age of 89, her beloved husband, who encouraged her many successes, passed away in 2000. And two of her children, Reginald and Yasmin, also passed before her. She is survived by three of her sons, Ronald, Roderick, and Reagan. Before her death, Yasmin followed her mother's footsteps and received a degree from the University of Alabama in secondary education. And it reads, now that be it forward and it be resolved, of course, at the proper time, it will be noted by the legislature of Alabama that Emma Henderson is hereby commended for her many accomplishments in education and for being a leader in the civil rights movement. She is recognized for her outstanding service, contributions, and leadership to the residents of the state of Alabama, and a copy of this resolution shall be presented to her family with the highest tributes and esteem. So when we get to the motions and resolutions, we're going to offer this, and the legislature, I have no doubt in my mind, the Senate will pass it, and we have some real pretty copies for you all that we're going to provide for you. We have 4 of them, and you may frame it or, as you see fit. We have it in some pretty jackets already, but if you decide to do that. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for allowing me to have the moment of Black history, and thank the body for allowing me to present our person for that moment.
Always enjoy it. Thank you, Senator Smotherman.
Thank you.
All right, call the first order of business on the special order calendar.
Okay.
Senate Bill number 169 by Senator Kelly relating to military affairs is referred to the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education.
Mr. President, we request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to military affairs, to amend sections 3164, 3165, and 3166 Code of Alabama to expand educational benefits for eligible dependents of deceased or disabled veterans and of veterans who are listed as missing in action and veterans who were prisoners of war while serving as a member of the United States Armed Forces, to include post-bachelor and graduate studies in a medical field. Senate Bill number 170 by Senator Melson, relating to extradition, is referred to the Committee on Finance and Taxation General Fund.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
I request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to extradition, to amend section 15962 Code of Alabama 1975 to further provide for the mileage and daily fees paid to an agent of the state in certain circumstances, and to make non-substantive technical revisions to update the existing code language to current style. Senate Bill number 171 by Senator Smitherman, relating to the Alabama Accountability Act, is referred to the Committee on Education Policy.
Read the title, would you?
All right, Secretary, read the title.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I request you read the title.
You're good.
Relating to the Alabama Accountability Act to require local boards of education in Class 1 municipalities to provide information about certain magnet and competitive public schools to parents or guardians of students enrolled in or assigned to a priority school. Senate Bill number 172 by Senator Smitherman, relating to discrimination, is referred to the Judiciary Committee.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to discrimination, to prohibit discrimination in employment and receipt of federal or state financial assistance based on an individual's hairstyle, and to create a cause of action against an employer for discrimination based on hairstyle. Senate Bill number 173 by Senator Shelnut, relating to the practice of physical therapy, is referred to the Committee on Health Care.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to the practice of physical therapy, to amend sections 3424-191, 3424-210.1 Code of Alabama to allow licensed physical therapists to conduct initial screenings of patients and to eliminate the requirement that physical therapy be practiced only upon a referral from a licensed physician, licensed dentist, licensed chiropractor, licensed physician assistant, or licensed certified registered nurse practitioner.
All right, this concludes introduction of bills. All right, now move on to House messages.
Message from the House, Mr. President. The House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill 177 by Representative Sells, relating to the Department of Commerce, is referred to the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
I request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to the Department of Commerce to amend Section 4129.1 Code of Alabama to revise the process for setting the salaries of the Secretary and the Deputy Secretaries, and to make non-substantive technical revisions to update the existing code language to current style. Message from the House, Mr. President. The House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 193 by Representative Warren, relating to Macon County with notice and proof, is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to Macon County to ratify and confirm prior salary payments to the judge of probate prior to the effective date of this act. Message from the House, Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 2 by Representative Chestnut relating to Dallas County with notice and proof is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request the title be read.
All right. Secretary, read the title.
House Bill 2 relating to Dallas County to provide for the compensation of the members of the County Board of Education. Message from the House, Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 115 by Representative Standridge relating to Blount County with notice and proof is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right. Secretary, read the title.
Relating to Blount County to provide for the annual salary of the members of the county commission, not including the chair, to provide that the annual salary shall be the total compensation of members of the county commission, to repeal any prior expense allowances provided to members of the county commission, not including the chair, to repeal section 4570 of the Code of Alabama 1975, providing an expense allowance for members of the county commission, and to repeal certain other acts superseded by this act. Message from the House, Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill 114 by Representative Standridge relating to Blount County with notice and proof is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right. Secretary, read the title.
Relating to Blount County to further provide for the expense allowance and salary of the coroner and to repeal section 45660.1 of the Code of Alabama 1975 relating to the salary of the coroner. Message from the House, Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill 179 by Representative Standridge and Shedd relating to the town of Hayden in Blount County is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right. Secretary, read the title.
To alter, rearrange, and extend the boundary lines and corporate limits of the town of Hayden in Blount County. Message from the House, Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 213 by Representative Keel with notice and proof relating to Colbert County is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right. Secretary, read the title.
Relating to Colbert County to further provide for the compensation of the judge of probate. Message from the House, Mr. President, the House of Representatives originated and passed the following House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate without engrossment. House Bill number 40 by Representative Pettis, a proposed constitutional amendment relating to Lauderdale County, is referred to the Committee on Local Legislation. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk. Message from the House, Mr. President. The House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 82 by Representative Shaw and Holsey relating to crimes and offenses is referred to the Judiciary Committee. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
request the title be read.
All right. Secretary, read the title.
Relating to crimes and offenses to amend Section 13A.10.9 Code of Alabama to add additional activity that would constitute the crime of false reporting, to further provide for penalties, to require the payment of restitution in certain circumstances, and in connection therewith would in have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of Section 111.05 of the Constitution of Alabama of 2022. Message from the House, Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 129 by Representative Garrett and others relating to education is referred to the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right. Secretary, read the title.
relating to education to enact the CHOOSE Act, to establish a refundable income tax credit to offset the cost of qualifying educational expenses, to direct the Department of Revenue to establish education savings accounts through which parents can access funds to direct the education of participating students through education service providers and participating schools, to establish the CHOOSE Act program requirements for parents of participating students, education service providers, and participating schools, to specify powers and duties of the Department of Revenue in administering the CHOOSE Act program, to prevent fraud or other misuse of the CHOOSE Act program funds, to establish the CHOOSE Act fund.
Is that it? All right, this concludes House messages. Now move on to standing committees. Secretary, call the first committee.
From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 31 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 11 ayes and 3 nays.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to education to amend sections 1 through 6 of Act 2023-560 of the 2023 regular session, now appearing as section 1665A1 through 1665A6 as the Distress Institution of Higher Education Loan Program, to state the purpose of the program, to change the administrator of the program to the Alabama Commission on Higher Education, to more specifically define eligible institutions to which loans shall be made, and to establish certain terms and conditions loans to eligible institutions. From the Committee on Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 73 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 10 ayes and 4 nays.
Mr. President, we request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to taxation to provide an exemption from the state sales and use tax for agricultural fencing materials. From Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 32 receives a favorable report by a vote of 13 ayes and 1 nay.
Mr. President, we request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to retirement benefits to amend section 162523 and 362728 Code of Alabama to revise the circumstances in which an individual's pension, annuity, or retirement allowance benefits under the teacher's retirement system and employee's retirement system are subject to certain recovery actions. From Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 151 receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to public monies to establish a state investment policy for the state treasurer, to amend section 162520 Code of Alabama to establish a state investment policy for the Board of Control of the Teachers Retirement System, and to amend section 362725 to establish an investment policy for the Board of Control for the Employees Retirement System of Alabama, and to establish a policy for expenditure of all state funds. From Finance and Taxation Education, Senate Bill number 56 receives a favorable report by a vote of 14 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to crimes committed by school employees to terminate the right to state retirement benefits for teachers or school employees convicted of certain sex offenses involving a student or minor.
All right, these bills received a second read and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary, call the next committee.
From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 95 receives a favorable report with one amendment by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, we request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to vaping devices to amend section 281113 to further provide prohibitions on the possession of an electronic nicotine delivery system by individuals under 21 years of age, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of the section 111.05 of the Constitution of Alabama 2022. From the Judiciary Committee, from judiciary and office. Yeah, okay, okay. Is it from judiciary? Okay. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 109 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, could we get the title read? May I request?
Secretary, read the title.
Relating to child sexual abuse material to amend sections 13A 6240 as last amended by Act 2023-464, 2023 regular sessions. 13A-12-190, 13A-12-191, 13A-12-192, 13A-12-193, 13A-12-194, 13A-12-196, 13A-12-197, and 13A-12-198 Code of Alabama 1975 to further provide for the age of a child for offenses involving child sexual abuse material, to provide a cause of action for certain offenses involving child sexual abuse material, to authorize a court to award punitive damages against an individual who commits certain offenses involving child sexual abuse material, to direct the State Board of Education to require local school boards to develop policies related to certain crimes, to repeal Section 13A-12-195, Code of Alabama 1975, relating to the commercial exploitation of child sexual abuse material, to make non-substantive technical revisions to update the existing code language to current style, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of 111.05 of the Constitution of Alabama. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 34 receives a favorable report with one amendment by vote of 10 ayes and 1 nay.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to crimes and offenses to amend Section 13A-10-241 as created by Act 2023-493. To add judges and judicial staff to activity that constitutes making a terrorist threat in the first degree, and in connection therewith would have as its purpose or effect the requirement of a new or increased expenditure of local funds within the meaning of Section 111.05 of the Constitution of Alabama, 2022. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 89 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays. From the Judiciary Committee, Senate Bill number 153 receives a favorable report by a vote of 11 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to criminal procedure to amend Section 1527.1, Code of Alabama 1975, to provide that a person who has been adjudged as a youthful offender and the underlying charge is a misdemeanor offense, violation, traffic violation, or municipal ordinance violation can file a petition to expunge the records relating to the charge and conviction under certain circumstances.
These bills received a second read and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary called next committee.
From the Committee on Education Policy, Senate Bill number 157 receives a favorable report by a vote of 6 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, I request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to public education employees, to authorize a teacher to exclude students from the classroom in certain circumstances, to authorize the placement of an excluded student under the control of a principal, to provide procedures relating to the return of an excluded student to the classroom, to authorize a school principal to suspend or consider for alternative school a student who is excluded from the classroom 3 times in 1 month in certain circumstances, to require each local board of education to adopt a process for a teacher to appeal principal's decision relating to a student's return to the classroom, and to provide immunity to education employees for civil and criminal actions related to the performance of their duties, to authorize each local board of education to provide legal services or to reimburse expenses for legal services for education employees charged with certain civil or criminal actions, to require each local board of education to reimburse an education employee who successfully defends himself in certain civil or criminal actions, to require an education employee who pleads guilty or nolo contendere or is found guilty to reimburse any legal expenses incurred by the local board of education, to require meetings where funds are expended for the legal defense of an employee to be open meetings, to create a rebuttable presumption that teachers may take necessary actions relating to classroom maintenance, and to require that State Board of Education to adopt a model policy that each local board of education must adopt. From the Committee on Education Policy, Senate Bill number 35 receives a favorable report by a vote of 5 ayes and 1 nay.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to public education to amend section 166B2, Code of Alabama 1975, to provide for the teaching of history in a fact-based and inclusive manner. From the Committee on Education Policy, Senate Bill number 2 receives a favorable report by a vote of 4 ayes and 2 nays.
These bills received a second read and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary called next committee.
From the Healthcare Committee, Senate Bill number 160 receives a favorable report by a vote of 12 ayes and 1 nay.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to in vitro fertilization, to provide civil and criminal immunity to persons following commonly accepted practices of providing in vitro fertilization services. From the Healthcare Committee, Senate Bill number 159 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 12 ayes, 0 nays, and 1 abstention.
Mr. President, we request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to in vitro fertilization, to provide civil and criminal immunity to persons providing goods and services related to in vitro fertilization in certain circumstances, to provide retroactive effect, and to provide for the repeal of the act on a certain date.
These bills received a second read and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary called next committee.
From the Committee on Local Legislation, Senate Bill number 156 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 76 receives a favorable report.
Mr. President, we request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to Elmore County to amend section 452681, 4526-230, and 4526-242 Code of Alabama to further provide for the compensation of the judge of probate, sheriff, and revenue commissioner, and to repeal section 452681 Code of Alabama 1975 relating to the salary of the judge of probate. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 94 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 24 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 53 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 84 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, House Bill number 85 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, Senate Bill number 141 receives a favorable report. From the Committee on Local Legislation, Senate Bill number 142 receives a favorable report.
These bills received a second read and be placed on the calendar for next legislative day. Secretary called next committee.
From the Committee on Local Legislation, Mobile County, Senate Bill number 152 receives a favorable report with substitute by a vote of 3 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to Class 2 municipalities to amend Section 33-4A13 Code of Alabama 1975 relating to rulemaking authority of the State Pilotage Commission to regulate the usage of maritime data for use in pilotage of vessels. From Local Legislation, Mobile County, Senate Bill number 163 receives a favorable report by a vote of 3 ayes and 0 nays.
Mr. President, we request the title be read.
All right, Secretary, read the title.
Relating to Mobile County to amend Section 4549-140.08 of the Code of Alabama 1975 relating to firefighting and emergency medical services districts and the Board of Trustees of the districts to further provide for the procedure to fill vacancies on the Board of Trustees of the districts.
All right, these bills received a second reading to be placed on the calendar for the next legislative day. This concludes committee reports. Now move on to motions and resolutions.
How you doing, son?
Mr. President,
Senator Sessions.
I have a resolution I actually have two, but that's the first one.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution.
Send it to rules, please.
You want it sent to rules? All right, Secretary, send it to rules.
Senate Joint Resolution number 24 by Senator Sessions establishing the Alabama-Ireland Trade Commission is referred to the Committee on Rules.
All right, Senator Sessions.
I have another resolution.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution.
This is the one we had spoke about yesterday. And if I could have, I would like,
Hold on one second. Let him read it in.
Senate Joint Resolution number 25 by Senator Sessions mourning the death and celebrating the life of Captain Marissa Lee Futrell.
All right, Senator Sessions.
yeah, this is the young captain that she worked for the Department of Conservation. Very dedicated, was over her hunter education, very dedicated employee, and just fitting and appropriate that we have unanimous consent to suspend the rules and add all senators as co-sponsors.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All right,
Thank
move
you.
for adoption.
Move for adoption.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is adopted. Thanks, Senator Sessions. Any other motions or resolutions? Senator Smithman, did you have one?
That one was just a SR.
Okay.
So at the proper time, I'm going to just present it to him in just a few minutes.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
All right, any other motions or resolutions? All right, moving on. Secretary, call the first bill.
On page 14 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 111 by Senator Gavan relating to the Sunset Law, Board of Heating, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration Contractors. BR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Barfoot.
thank you. Obviously, I'm not Senator Gavan. He's not in here, so I've told him I would cover it. As we begin the sunset bill process, I just want to make the members aware we had some very good conversations, discussions over the summer. And I just want to thank the members of the Sunset Committee, the House as well, but particularly the Senate. And just want to thank y'all for all the hard work that y'all done. The SB 111 deals with sunset of the Board of Heating, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration. And I think based on how hot it's been in here today, we might need to review that and do something else because there's been a little warm temperature in here. But with that being said, I see my colleague across the way. I'd motion for adoption of the BIR and hand it off to Senator Smithman.
All right, Senator Smithman,
Could I be recognized to speak on the BIR?
you're recognized.
All right. First, I just want to say this, and then I'll pre-request. I'm gonna request at the time. I'm gonna pre-request to Senator Stewart to continue talking. Since I have the mic, I'm gonna ask to pass it off to him at the proper time. But right now, I want to say something about what he said about being kind of warm in here. I just want to clear everybody up. If you walked over here and touched my hands, they are freezing. I mean, if you let me put it in your face, you be telling me to take it off. And you know why? I mean, Black History Month is a great time to say this. We ain't had no air conditioning. I ain't grow up with air. I did not grow up nowhere in my childhood or high school hood with an air conditioner in my house. So when if y'all don't know the truth, it's really too cold in here for me. I know, but I ain't the majority. See, so and you all may be comfortable. Don't feel bad. It'd be the same way if I was at home. My family would be talking about it like y'all, it's hot, and I'm about to freeze. You know, so I just wanted to let you know that some of us just hadn't been blessed until we got grown to get a little air conditioning. Now, what my folks did do, they built a house facing north and south, and all the windows were parallel, like the kitchen window to the dining room window, the main door from the back through the door through the living room, and window, so the air would blow the heat straight through the house, where you wouldn't have heat. They had it figured out how to do it to keep us cool, and so, but no, it hadn't had that. Mr. President, if I can, I would like to yield to Senator Stewart.
I have a question for you.
You have a question for me?
I do, unrelated to this. When you were the pro tem, did you had the heat on, not the air?
I had to get him to put the, he'll tell you about the, he took care of me when he could.
Okay.
But at the same time, when you in leadership, you got to yield to what they want. And they were telling me they were hot out here, so I had to bear the cold so that they would be comfortable, everybody out here, so.
All right, what you want to do, you want to keep the mic and just yield to Senator Stewart. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, and actually, I'm going to present these while he's doing that to the people.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Senator Stewart. You're on Senator Smitherman's time.
May I be recognized, Mr. President?
You are.
It's an honor to speak to the BIR on this very vital legislation. Senator Barfoot, I just want to commend you on your leadership on the Sunset Committee. I'm new to the committee, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to see our government at work. You know, we have such a huge fiduciary responsibility to our citizens, and there's a lot of I'm appreciative of the consumer protection aspect of what we do on the Sunset Committee. And we want to make sure, because consumer protection speaks to ensuring that consumers, their wealth is not siphoned away. You know, what little that they do have, that it's protected. And I'm so grateful that we are extending the Board of Heating, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration contractors. We just had, I echo Senator Smitherman's sentiments about how hot it is in here, or how it's been. In my office, I had about 40 people in my office, and it was very hot today. And so we need to make sure that, do you have any comments?
I'm just going to say, I'm not sure if it's because of the building, because I'm about 40 pounds overweight at least, but I'm hot either way, so.
I may be getting myself in trouble because that may have been a fire hazard. And so I apologize for that, but we had youth here. They were so excited from Selma, Alabama, to just see their government, and they were just so impressed to see where the sausage is made, as they say. A lady at my church once said, there are two things that you don't want to see, and that is the making of sausage and the making of a politician. Now, I'm not sure how true that is, but that was just so hilarious to me. And so, in speaking with making sausage, and how politics is made and how politics is enacted, can we talk about the implications of this bill and how important heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration contractors are to our economy, as well as to ensure consumers are protected?
Sure. Can I jump in there and kind of talk about the process that we went through on all of this? It was,
Sure.
It was we split it up. As you remember, there were 30 boards. We split it up basically 10 apiece for each month, and so we worked in the summer and talk about some difficult days in the summer, but they were long days, but I think productive days from that standpoint. We take basically the 10 committees, and we have folks that we hear what those findings are. For instance, on the board of the Board of Heating and Air Conditioning and Refrigeration, we had an opportunity to hear what they had, the examiners of public accounts had done, reviewing all of that, going through those financials, looking at surveys, talking about figuring out what the deficiencies may or may not have been. And then, of course, as you know, they brought those by this type of report to us, and we had an opportunity on one day to look through that report and go through a list of 10 for that month, and then come back the next day and kind of talk with those different boards or agencies or commissions to figure out, what the deficiencies were, give them credit when they were doing a good job, and certainly some of them had been doing an outstanding job. So I thought it was a good conversation all through the summer.
Well, I just want to say that the examiners of public accounts, they are the unsung heroes and sheroes of our state. I think we should give them a round of applause.
Amen. I'm with you.
because they work so diligently to make sure that we are safeguarding our assets. They are making sure that they're in compliance with transparency, that there's financial transparency, that there are financial statements submitted, that audits are taking place. And so I'm just so grateful for the work that they do. And they work so hard. They're doing so much with limit. We have finite resources. And so they just always submit a quality product. Anytime we ask them, they always have the answers, and they're very engaged in the process. They're very engaged. I don't know how they do it, how they keep up with all the committees and all the different agencies that exist, and I just think they are impressive. What do you think?
100%, you know, to your point, not only is it kind of an accounting, a mathematical, let's look and make sure the books are balanced, that money is being spent how it should be and where it's supposed to go, but it's also making sure there's compliance with the statutes that govern those boards, agencies, and commissions. And so from that standpoint, it is absolutely amazing because we ask them to do an awful lot in a short period of time. And by the way, I know you know this already, but the 30 boards that we have represent maybe a quarter of all the boards that are out there or so. So there's a tremendous number of boards, agencies, and commissions that we involve them in and see. In addition to that, you know, they've got full-time roles for auditing either public school systems, a hodgepodge of other things that they are.
Barfoot, the time has expired on the BOR.
Thank you.
Was your motion to use the previous role?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? All right, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
23 ayes, no nays.
23 ayes, 0 nays, the BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 14 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 111 by Senator Gavan relating to the Board of Heating, Air Conditioning, and Refrigeration Contractors.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now that we're on the bill, I could certainly talk about it. I see my colleague over there, and he may want to have some questions, so I'd yield to him for questions.
Mr. President, may I be recognized?
You're recognized.
I want to just, and this may be very pie in the sky, or, you know, because I'm very, you know, I get accused of being idealistic a lot of times, and which is true. Because I believe that we can have a better world, we can have a better state. What do you think about the feasibility of this board maybe having some shadowing opportunities? I'm not sure if that exists, but I think we need more children in trades and in heating and cooling, and in that field, and they can make a good, productive life. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I certainly think that that is a wonderful opportunity if the statute affords that to them. If not, maybe it's something we can look at, because you are right. I mean, the young folks today, you know, I've said this before, and this is nothing against the four-year institutions or anything else, but not everybody wants to go to college or to read Shakespeare. Shakespeare's great, but that rarely puts food on the table. But you know, jobs and working in this area and so many others that we were you have an opportunity to really make a good living and provide for your family. And so that interest, I think you could pique those kids at a younger age to put them, and I know the Lieutenant Governor has supported that kind of a get ready to work mentality since he's been here, since I've been in the Senate, and you know, he's exploring different ways that we can get the younger folks involved in trades. And so I would applaud the Lieutenant Governor for his efforts on that I think are coming to a culmination here shortly. So I agree. I think that's a great thing. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, whether it be in the Board of Heating and Air Conditioning, Refrigerant, or some of the other boards or agencies that we have. And in addition to kind of opening their eyes about what the possibility is on a hands-on position type thing, you know, is it Mike Rowe that had the Dirty Jobs program? It means that, you know, folks can get out there and make a living for their family, and they don't have to be ashamed. Nobody ever should have been a shame, but hard work is good. This is I'm sure in many instances when you're climbing up in attics, you're fixing refrigerators and you're going through all of that, to Senator Smitherman's point, it's taxing and it's difficult work, but somebody's got to do it. And because it is taxing and difficult, probably will be making a pretty good pay.
Well, we are singing from the same hymn book. I love this workforce development aspect and direction that the state is going in. So I thank you. And Mr. President, I yield to Senator Singleton. Ms. Smitherman, I apologize.
Yes.
Yeah, you're recognized.
All right, thank you. You got some,
And you haven't spoken on this yet, so you can start on this one.
you got something you want to say about this? You may not want to follow me. I'm gonna be here a while. Oh, okay. You want to start? Oh, okay.
All right, Senator Allen.
You can get further if you want to. I got a lot of them on here, so it ain't no problem. Ain't no problem. Okay. All right. What were y'all talking about?
Heat and air conditioning, refrigeration. By the way, I know you've got some questions, when you're talking about the lack of air conditioning. I remember this story. My daddy was the oldest boy out of 6 children. They didn't have electricity until he was 14 years old. No, sorry, electricity was 12, running water till he was 14. So I remember him telling the story about my grandmama would take the bricks in the wintertime because they slept out on a porch area with one of his younger brothers, and would take a brick that had been in the fire or right by the fire, and they'd put it down in the sheets up under the covers with them. That's the way they stay warm, is have that brick that was retain that heat, kind of put it out there. So
people don't know them bricks hold heat like that. And I tell you what, you can see, not all necessary bricks, but bricks concept, what we were saying, is that I can be at my law office and I'm on 2nd Avenue, so you look straight down the street, like you're looking at the McWayne, and it's kind of, how things are narrow and that light comes, and you can see the heat doing this here.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm looking, I said, do y'all see that heat coming up?
waves coming up.
Yes.
Second thing is that my dad was raised in the country. My mama was a city girl, right?
Okay.
And I remember him saying the first time he went over to their house, to my mama and daddy's house, when they were dating, they had a ceiling fan, an attic fan.
I know what you're talking about.
He said he never felt any cooler than when that attic fan was on, because he'd pulling all of that air through there. Mm-hmm. So, but these folks on this particular the Board of Heating, Air Conditioning, Refrigeration Contractors, I think generally speaking have done some pretty good work. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you've got about them.
Okay. What kind of certification do they have to go through?
It's a great question. My understanding is, and I'm going to see if I can find this in here, that
What page you on? We probably got the same book.
I'm starting on page 1, but
Okay.
I'm going to try to find a definitive answer to you. But my guess is that there are different certifications depending on what class, residential, commercial, certainly more of, maybe the higher, the more complex that system is, even refrigeration, that there's probably extra credentials that you'd have to get. Page 4, so you found it before I did. So looks like page 4 lists the licensure qualifications. Mm-hmm. And it appears to be that, you've got a couple of the duct air tightness testing contractors, and it looks like a pretty extensive list. They've got to complete the Residential Energy Service Network Home Energy Rating System. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
The Building Performance Institute Building Analysis, or BPI training, or the Home Builders Association of Alabama Qualified Credentialed Air Tightness Verifier. And I think the acronym for that that, they say, is QCATV, and submit a proof of completion approved by the Home Builders Association. And that's just for that air duct tightness. I mean, I think that's a separate qualification. Looks like certification that not just because you've got a license, you do all of these things, but you could do that one particular thing. I'll try to, so the next one that I see on here is to become a heating, air conditioner, refrigeration contractor, you have to pass a written exam. You have to have held an apprenticeship registration issued by the board for 2 or more calendar years. That's pretty substantial. You're talking about getting some real life experience there, 2 years out in the field and working, or 3,000 hours of coursework or experience. I mean, that's a lot of time. I can't do the math in my head real quick, but what is that? 100 days at 24 hours a day would be 24. So you've got to put in some pretty substantial time. I think if memory serves me right, if you work 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, that's somewhere around 2,080 hours a year, 2,040, just over 2,000 anyway. So, or graduate from approved heating and air conditioner refrigeration curriculum. So lots of things that you've got to go through. And then here's the part that really I like. So from an apprentice, and we talked about an apprentice before, hands-on training, getting your feet wet and making sure this is what you want to do and getting that real world experience by working up under somebody who is licensed. So an apprentice says the board shall register every person who may apply for an apprentice heating, air conditioner, or refrigeration registration certificate upon forms provided by the board and payment of all prescribed fees. And then certainly all must be citizens of the United States or legally present with appropriate documentation for the federal government. All that's laid out in the Code of Alabama, section 3431-24-2, 3431-27, and 3431-28. So those are the statutes that govern that licensure qualification there, and that's a pretty extensive list.
The reason I asked you that because as we had a bill yesterday, and you see what the qualifications are. You see all the exams, the written, the apprenticeship, and everything they go through. And then that was a clear example of what I'll be talking about, that there are certain people in the world of Alabama who want closed shops. They just want the sales to stay in there, and they don't realize that they had to start from here to get there. They want everybody just to be there who can get in it and close out all the people here. i.e. the same, it's ironic. The first board is the same one I was talking about yesterday. I mean, I didn't know this was going to be number one today. And that is this particular board to put in an air conditioner. They want you to, the unit, they want you to be a certified first-class electrician. That ain't what you went to school for. You went to school for air conditioning and heating.
Yeah. I don't see anything in here, to your point, I don't see anything
It's
here
not.
that is electrical.
It's not. But that's what somebody tried to put on the bill yesterday. See, that's what I mean. That's, we have to watch out for that kind of stuff right there, because just like you just said, there's nothing in here. They were probably argue, well, they meant to. No, they didn't. This is right here. This board is an active board. They got the power to do the different things they do, and they haven't requested that. That's something that needs to be done.
You've got a bill, and this is going to be on topic, but you've got a bill, I think I remember, and I haven't read it yet, but that deals with licenses. I think it's in judiciary. And what it sounds to me, in my real brief reading of it, it is an attempt to make sure that we can get people into the workforce. Am I right about that?
That's what we're trying to do, and what the kind of general. I had some conversation today, and I don't mind sharing it with you, because they probably had with you. If not, they're gonna have it with you being the chair. Is with the I think it's the Securities Commission. And what I found out was kind of like what we were saying here, that they do such an extensive review, you know, case by case method that impressed me. That's what I'm saying, to the point where under those kind of conditions, they probably should have, and you'll see me, I may make a request with a little amendment on it. They should have probably a little more latitude, you know, because they do this already. You know, even though not to the extent that I had that, but they do it already, and it helps get more people, and I just pick them out, into the workforce, because they, as I said, they can look at a case by case basis or situations, or just the general qualifications of people, whether or not they meet that standard that they have. So we're trying to do that. And one of the other things you'll see, and I'm not sure if it's in that, but it may be in something, I know it's something else I was doing related to that, is to try to deal with the vagueness. I don't mean don't give people some room and latitude, but sometimes terms are so vague, it's just hard for the interpreter to interpret it.
You know what's funny in contract construction, and you would know this, that, you know, do you make it so tight that those words are the only words that matter, or do you open it up so much that it's too open, right?
That's right.
And you know, in legal circumstances, the drafter, it's held against the drafter, whoever that drafter may be. Well, you're the one who put pen to paper and came up with these words on here, so if there's any ambiguity, it's on the drafter of the legislation.
That's right. And you know, that goes to intent. What was the intent of the body? You know, I say that because this legislative body, House and Senate, is the one who actually passed, regardless whether I was the sponsor or you were the sponsor, but the body, it helps express the intent. And I think sometimes that we kind of forget that. You know, I'll never forget, I was in court on a grandparent visitation right. And it was, hey, you know how lawyers are? I got to make this remain. And it was real cool in there, and the air conditioner wasn't running good. But the judge asked me, the other attorney kept harping about the fact that we don't know the legislative intent. We don't know the legislative intent. I didn't have to. The judge did. The judge said, and I'm not, look at this. I'm the opposite attorney. So the judge said, you really want to know the legislative intent? You don't want me to try to interpret it? No, I want to know the exact intent. So the judge said, Attorney Smilliman, take the stand, hold your hand up. Yes, I do. He said, now, he told the other attorney, now you may ask questions. He looked at the judge, looked over at me, looked at the judge, and the judge said, that's the legislator. You want to know what his intent was. Ask him. You know, and so
you know, you're never supposed to ask a question as a lawyer that you don't at least believe you know the answer to. So
you're right about that.
I'm going to continue kind of talking about what's going on this board.
Okay.
So we talked about the licensure requirements. Next up on page 5 of the report is the examinations, and it looks to be that computerized exams are provided and scored by PROV Incorporated, and exam fees are paid directly to the board. Exams may be taken at home if the applicant's personal computer meets the PROV Incorporated security standards. So that's interesting. So we get to talking about what those security standards are as it relates to internet protocols or IP addresses and security that they have there. So on-site exams are also administered. It looks like a whole variety of places, which is good because, you know, everybody can't drive to Montgomery, for instance, but the on-site exams are administered at Alabama Alabama State, Auburn University at Montgomery, Enterprise State Community College, Shelton State Community College, University of Alabama at Huntsville and the Tuscaloosa campuses, Jefferson State Community College, and both Jefferson and Shelby and Hoover campuses, and the University of South Alabama. So it looks to me, at least from the on-site examinations, that there's a whole host of places that folks can go and take those, and they don't have to drive maybe all day or for long periods of times to get there. So that's absolutely outstanding from that standpoint. And when we talk about those examinations, the heating and air conditioning examinations, it looks like we've got the benefit here of seeing how many exams, and I think these are, I don't know if these are total. It looks like they are total from on-site as well as maybe at home on a PROV incorporated type computer program that's been approved. But for the heating and air conditioning examination in 2019, there were a total of 155, 97 of those passed. That's a 63% pass rating. In 2020, there was a really jumped up a lot there. That's good. So the number of exams taken in 2020 was 340. 174 of those individuals passed. That's a 51% pass rating on that. And then in 2021, that number goes up again to 387. Total passed is 213. And then 2022, we're talking about 460. So if my math serves me right, from 2019 to 2022, you've had that number almost triple or right at triple of the individuals that have taken that. So it certainly seems like we've got more people that are involved and engaged in this particular profession to try to come in there and make the most of it. So, you know, that's outstanding. Next up, we've got the refrigeration examination. Again, those numbers start off in 2019, and looks like there are fewer refrigeration examinations as compared to the heating and air conditioning examination, but I'll try to go through those quickly year by year. In 2019, we had 27 total examinations that were given for that particular purpose, the refrigeration examination. 25% of those passed. Boy, that's outstanding. 25 of 27. Looks like that's a 93% pass rate. I didn't take it because it would have been less than that, I'm sure. 2020, we go from 27 taken that year to 40 taken in 2020. So also an increase by year of number of individuals taking those exams. I think that's a positive thing because we have given those folks an opportunity now to come in and make a pretty good living, I suspect. The number passed out of that 40 in 2020 was 34. So dropped a little bit, dipped a little bit down to 85% pass rate, but still a significant increase in the number of individuals who took that exam, and then certainly as it passed it as a whole. 2021, we had 55 total folks, so again an increase. 38 of those individuals that took it in 2021 passed. Now here's where the bad news gets, and I'm not sure what it is, but what happened then, but out of those 55, 38 passed, which is a 69%. So we dropped in pass percentage rate down from 93 to 85 to 69. So not sure what's going on there, but the good news is that that pass rate increased from 69 back up to what looked to be the normal average of about 82%. So given opportunities for folks, that's an awesome thing. The notes that I have include that FY 2022, the pass-fail rates for schools located in Alabama were presented in Appendix 3 of the report, and we may have an opportunity to get there. We'll see. Certainly welcome to continue talking about this important field. A practical exam is offered to contractors who failed the written exam at least one time. So that's to me saying that we're not throwing folks out just because you didn't pass it the first time. We give you an opportunity to maybe study and try to take it again, try to make sure that we just don't throw you out after you've paid your money to take the test. And so those folks that did not pass it the first time, they were able to take it again after a practical exam is offered. The exam's held every 6 months from the date of the applicant's first or latest unsuccessful exam. So you've got a little bit of what I'll call maybe cooling off time there, where after you have maybe not passed it, you get an opportunity to take a practical exam, and then And then after that, take that test again. Exam is administered at Gadsden State Community College and is proctored and scored by one of the instructors there. No practical examinations were taken during the period under review. So not sure why that was, but evidently while the examiners of public accountants are going through and looking at this board, there were no practical examinations that were taken during that time. One of the things that I think is very important, Lieutenant Governor's worked hard on this, is reciprocity. This board does have reciprocity agreements with Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, Tennessee, and West Virginia. Certainly that's important for all the folks that move here to the state, specifically for those members and their family members who are in the military. So we've got an opportunity, I think, to maybe even expand that, hopefully. So I see my colleague across the way, and certainly open a dialogue with Senator Hatcher, my friend.
All right, Senator Hatcher.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Barfoot. Thank you, Mr. President. So, Senator Barfoot, I heard you talking, and it sounds so nice, and it was so melodious. So why don't you just continue?
I'll be glad to, because there's some pretty interesting things going on in here that I think benefit the profession as well as the state of Alabama, because you can't have one without the other. You've got to make sure that we give people opportunities to take exams and become licensed and provide for their families, but at the same time we've got to balance that to make sure that from the consumer side of the equation, we are giving them, or this board is giving them, quality individuals who, when they come out and they're either from a business or residential side, that when they come out, they know that these individuals know what they're doing. So I'll continue along. It looks like, and I'm gonna stick with the reciprocity. The board may enter into reciprocity agreements with other states to permit Alabama certified contractors to engage in work lots of great information provided in this book that we've had an opportunity to look through, and certainly the examiners did a great job with that. And I'm open to any questions, and if you have no questions on this particular board, then I could certainly move for final passage. I think we've got some others as well coming.
Right. I think you answered my question, so.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I thank you for allowing me to answer those. It really is it's a pretty cool process that I didn't know existed before I got in here, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, with that, I'd move for final passage of SB 111 using previous rule if no objection.
All right, any objection? Okay, hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
$25 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 111 passes. Secretary, call the next bill.
On page 14 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 113 by Senator Gavan relating to the Sunset Law, the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board. BR pending.
Senator Barfoot.
Mr. President, I'd move for adoption of the BIR. I see my friend across the way, and certainly he may want to speak on the BIR. So.
Thank you, Senator Barfoot. Thank you, Mr. President. My stomach seems to be saying that there are no questions that I have.
I'll be glad to kind of, if we could pass the BIR and get on the bill, I'll be glad to kind of go through here and highlight some of the good things maybe that the ABC board is doing, some of the statistics that I thought and other members of Sunset thought were pretty interesting. So with that, Mr. President, I'd move adoption of the BIR using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
25 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 14 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 113 by Senator Gavan, relating to the Sunset Law, Alcoholic Beverage Control Board.
Senator Barfoot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, you see I'm not Senator Gavan, but I am standing in his stead. He's a valued member of the Sunset Committee, and I've told him I'd be glad to fill in for him today. So I know there's some work being done, and so I'd like to explain to my colleague across the way and the rest of the members in here kind of what the ABC Board does and the examinations and the review that we had and we looked at during the summer. So I'll start off. You know, the purpose and authority for the ABC Board is, and of course, ABC is the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board of Alabama, was created way back in 1936, looks like. Act number 1936-66 of Alabama. During the extra session, which I'm assuming is the same as a special session, but assumption, but I think a logical assumption. It looks like the board regulates manufacturing, distribution, and sale of alcoholic beverages in this state, as well as tobacco products. Now, I don't know, you know, at one point in time, I guess it was only alcohol, so that's the reason it's the Alabama Alcohol Beverage Control Board and not the Alabama Alcohol Beverage and Tobacco Product Control Board. But be that as it may, I guess the name ABC sounds good. It's kind of like one of the Jackson songs, right? I mean, ABC. I won't sing for you, but the wholesale, the board operates the retail and wholesale stores in the state and distributes profits and taxes and fees to the general fund, the education trust fund, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, the Department of Human Resources, the Department of Mental Health, the Department of Revenue, and Alabama cities and counties throughout the state. The board operates under the authority of the Code of Alabama 1975, section 28-1-1 through 28-11-21. So it is a very important board, as you know, Senator Hatcher. I understand not a legal drop of liquor is sold in this state other than going through the board. I think at various times, and maybe even including now, there may be some illegal out there, and they're in control of that, as well as trying to regulate that as well.
And they do a really good job.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize until a couple of years ago that the Mac MacArthur gave me a real good lesson on exactly how they operate. And of course, you know, he's been at this a long time.
Yeah.
And the good thing is, and I served before I got up here to the Senate with Senator Wagner was the chair of our direct wine shipment task force.
Was that on did that come through the Fred committee?
It may have up here, but it was a joint task force. And I recall having no knowledge associated with how people would be able to get their wine shipments to their houses. And that was an interesting dialogue that took place with the ABC board around.
I seem to remember, I may be wrong, but I seem to remember that it was, you from other states, you had to have it shipped to an ABC location here.
Right.
They had to clear it basically, and then we came through, you could go pick it up at that ABC store. So that was an interesting take. And I didn't realize that either. I always thought it was just, you know, the grocery store and that's it. But if you do want a bottle of wine from an outside source, I think that's the process that you would have at least had to have gone through. Maybe I think now there's some other avenues to get that.
Right. Really impressive work.
Yeah.
Mr. President, I have no additional comments we can call for.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you for engagement on this and the senators on the Sunset Committee that reviewed it. So with that, Mr. President, I'd move for final passage of SB 113 using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
25 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 113 passes. Secretary, call next bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 117 by Senator Stewart and Coleman Madison, relating to the Sunset Law, Alabama Electronic Security Board of Licensure. BR pending.
Mr. President, may I be recognized?
Be recognized.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of the BIR using the previous rule without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
25 ayes, 0 nays. CPR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 117 by Senator Stewart and Coleman Madison, relating to the Alabama Electronic Security Board of Licensure.
Senator Stewart.
This is a good bill.
We worked hard on it, didn't we?
Yes, we are dealing with extending the Alabama Electric Security Board of Licensure. As you know, these companies, they work very hard to keep our families and households safe. And it's dealing, it was created in 1997, and it's dealing with regulating persons and business entities who engage in sales, service, installation, maintenance, monitoring of intrusion / our burglar and alarm systems, its closed circuit television systems, electronic access control systems, and also it has jurisdiction over locksmith services. Me personally, I have a home system, and it gives me and my family great security at night, even when it turns on by mistake. The police are alarmed immediately, and we get those calls, and it's very useful. And so there are different types of licenses. So the board does 8 different types of licenses, and they license companies, central stations, installers and technicians, qualifying agents, so salespersons. So I imagine there's jurisdiction over salespersons to make sure that there are not any frauds or any fraud people presenting themselves as salespeople. We have a lot of that going on. Administrative, locksmiths, as well as helpers. And so there have been quite a few licenses that were issued since 2023. There have been nearly 6,000 licenses in our state that were awarded. Well, I wouldn't say they were awarded, they were earned. And so, not many significant issues that are too alarming, but did you have any remarks on the company, on this board?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if you remember, I believe I'm correct, that this is the board that we had some discussion about, when you were talking about fraud, it just kind of went off in my head that if I remember, there were some stories about some individuals who had, without a license, had gone into elderly individuals' homes, had tried to sell them some type of security system, got them to sign some documents that, sometimes even hard for lawyers to interpret, but, signed off on the documents nonetheless, and were kind of holding their feet to the fire. Hey, you signed this document when they really didn't need it. And so I think that's one of the benefits of this board, is that they do have that regulation, so that they can kind of cut out the bad actors. And I'll also say, I believe, if I'm correct, our sheriff, Senator Hatcher's sheriff, and myself, Sheriff Cunningham, wonderful sheriff, I think he is on this board. So the extra, if I am correct about that extra, the law enforcement presence on there, knowing what goes on these boards and commissions, especially this one, where there has the potential to just be, some fraudulent activity or so. So I'm just glad that he's on there, and he does a great job.
Yes. Now, some of the, one of the findings is there were some issues that, based on a survey, that they feel like the majority of the individual and company licenses didn't feel like there should be some mandatory continuing education. They didn't feel like that was necessary. I'd just be interested to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, as lawyers and, soon to be, we've got to do that continuing education. And so I think you can have, I think it's needed a lot of times, but what I hate to see is the overburdening of that, right? To where it is, and I'm not saying certainly not here, but sometimes you see these regulatory boards that require these continuing type educations, and sometimes, honestly, they may not be any more than just an attempt to, collect fees or cost along those lines. It may not provide that much benefit. I'm hopeful, and I don't remember that this one did, so that's a good thing. But, I think generally speaking, those continuing education credits can be a good thing as long as they're not abused.
Well, I think the continuing, I agree with your sentiments. The continuing education is important because we need to evaluate trends. We need to evaluate best practices. They're actually, with dealing with this electronic security board, we need to know like the latest types of potential fraud tactics that people are hacking. We need to be aware of that because you need to be able to make the consumer aware of all of those issues too, to keep them safe and to keep them protected. And so I don't think we need to go overboard, or there needs to be an undue burden of expensive, or it needs to be long tests, but it could be like a little online assessment that companies or individuals can take. Now, some people feel that there was another issue that individual and company licenses responded to the survey that boards, laws, rules, and policies are unnecessary restrictions on the practices of the profession. And so I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, let me go back to that, what we were just talking about, the continuing education, not only to keep up with what the changing landscape is from a fraud standpoint, but to your point, and you're exactly right. Can you imagine how security has changed over the past, say, 20 years? You could have someone who is extremely experienced and knows everything about what they're doing, but as technology changes, analog to digital to, I'm out of my field already. So
AI, don't forget about that.
AI, different things that are out there that just because you've been doing it for a long period of time, you may know everything that you need to know about what you've experienced, but there's always new and developing technology. So we need to stay up to date on that. That certainly, that makes us on the cutting edge, right? If those individuals are continuing to receive that additional education and understanding, but it also, to your point earlier, it also helps the consumers, right? Because now they're getting expertise in the latest and greatest technology. So that's available to them with somebody who knows what's going on.
And then there was another issue that there is an increase of unlicensed individuals performing the work. Now, do you think this can be attributed to maybe the workforce shortages? Could that be an argument?
Maybe, but I would say, I don't know. I don't think the licenses restrictions were so difficult on here that it's preventing people from getting legitimate, being legitimate and being in the workforce. So I don't know the answer to that. That does concern me because when you have, going back to that example that I think was given to us during the Sunset Committee, the elderly individual who had basically given over a large sum of money, didn't need to do that. And I believe that was an unlicensed individual. And if I'm correct, I think they found out who that was and took some action and maybe even prosecuted that individual. And, we got to make sure that, the elderly or older folks sometimes are more vulnerable, just like kids are. And so we all have vulnerabilities, but certainly we need to make sure that we try to protect those. And I think this board does, from what I remember, a fairly good job of that.
Well, one of the things I think that we need to consider is maybe there can be some research done on national companies versus local companies. Like, is there a different quality? Is there a different quality assurance? Or national companies, do they keep your homes better secured compared to local companies?
Yeah.
Has there ever been discussion on that?
Yeah, I don't remember having that, but you bring up a great point there. From the standpoint of the local companies have an interest in the community, you would think.
Move for final.
So to your point, I think there's probably some pros and cons of both the national and the local, but interesting conversation about that.
Yes. Final pass.
All right, if you have no more questions, then without objection, I'd move final passage of this SB 117 using previous rule.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
25 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 117 passes. Thank you, Senator Stewart. Senator Reed,
Thank you, Mr. President.
good to see you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good to see you. I appreciate the engagement from all the membership today, like always, doing our tasks, supporting important topics for the people of Alabama. With that, I'm going to ask for a motion that we stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Thursday, tomorrow, Thursday, the 29th.
All right, heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem.